This is the 20th season of Bass Talk Live. BTL is presented by Bass Cat Boats, Strike King Lures, Aftco, Pro Guide Batteries, Spro, Gamakatsu, The Bass Tank, Denali Rods, Beatdown Outdoors, and Sunline.
BTL coming at you.
Good morning, and welcome to another exciting edition of BTL Bass Talk Live, where we are going to talk fishing. And usually when we go for an extended 10 days, extended period of time without a live in-studio show, it's because I'm typically fishing. But I had two of probably the coolest experiences of my life in back-to-back weeks, and we're going to talk about them in depth. You can see here I'm sporting the JDM fresh off the plane from Japan, the Sunline headquarters. We're going to do a bunch of shows about that, but look at this. Check out the JDM Japanese hat right here. I think this is what they use for unu fishing, which is like salt. There's all sorts of crazy stuff that I learned about. I also learned about IU fishing, where we'll ask our guest today if he knows about IU fishing. He might have some thoughts on that. But look, and this is what they do there. So they have these bugs over in Japan, but giant dragonflies eat the bugs. So these guys wear dragonflies on their hats to keep the bugs away. You ever heard anything like that, Mark Zona?
No, it's fantastic. Listen, a lot of stuff, a lot of JDM stuff that comes from Japan. I have it in the barn. One step ahead, man. One step ahead. But
it is.
I'll be honest with you. That hat has a lot of flair, a lot of sizzle. Like you and I walked in like a come and go, and I saw you. I'd be like, there he is, right?
Yeah, no one's gonna hole jump me, so to speak. Especially.
Or the other side. Maybe if I didn't know you, maybe I absolutely would.
And then you mix that with a little visible tomato, little right. Sunline visible tomato line.
Absolutely, man.
Yeah. So, oh my gosh, that's going to take a while to come back. All right. I greatly appreciate you doing this. I know you did Absolutely. A ton of podcasts prior to, I got to get rid of this 1 second. This goes back on the wall. We're going. Hat change. Now, usually I'm AFCO'd out like you, but Boomer Sooner, rivalry week, beat Texas. Brian Big Robinson, week. You are dead to me this week. Now, yes. Granted, you played for Texas. I went to Oklahoma. You may have the upper hand there, but and you may be ranked number one, but Boomer Sooner, Texas State Fair, bucket list.
You feel good this week about that game?
No, not at all.
Say,
no. Dude, so it's like those practices where if you, well, hell yeah, you're Stratton Series Angler of the Year, like what, 3 years in a row?
I gave it a run a couple
so
in a row,
tournament side, it's like one of those practices where if you look back, you've pieced together like a pretty good bag every day of practice, but you go into the tournament not real confident where your first bite's going to come and how you're going to put 5 in the boat, you know?
Absolutely. I totally get it. I remember those days. And I also remember, and you can relate to this, where you have those practices that totally suck, and then somehow you hodgepodge a top 5, and you're like, wow, I enjoyed that more than actually having a good practice.
That's where the Bears are right now, right?
I think so. I don't want to. Let's. This living room was electricity. Granted, it's living up to your competition. A win's a win. Panthers, not a good team. But listen. Slow increases from QB1, number 18, Caleb Williams. I'm all in because we have to be. Now let's go to London and beat the crap out of the Jaguars and slide in 4-2 into the bye week. Let's go.
I mean, I asked you this before, and then we went live. You're not to painting the fingernail stage yet, are you?
Jaguars win. I'll be all in on that. Yeah, I'm real close. This is for any Bears fan that's watching this, Banger. this last Sunday actually looked like NFL football, something that rarely happens with the Bears. So it was a big weekend.
If they win this next 2 weeks, will you come back on BTL just for 5 minutes with Z Train painted fingernails?
Z Train painted fingernails, number 18. Yes. Yeah. You give me 2 more wins because we got a bye in there. But I think we go. I think we go Jaguars, and then I believe Reds Commanders, who are good. So yeah, it's 2 wins. Done.
So that would be what, the week of October 28th.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, I'm a Bears fan until then. I asked because Caleb Williams, OU, Oklahoma.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And then went to USC.
Yep.
With I'm not a big fan of saying his name, the head coach out there.
Right.
In Southern California.
Understand.
But I still root for him. He was always good. He was cool. I got no issues with him.
I got to tell you, there was a lot of chatter but before that draft, and I follow it daily, man. Besides my bass fishing fix and hunting fix, I get a daily dose of Chicago. Boy, he is. If he throws for 3,000 to 3,500 yards, he is going to be the king of that town after his rookie year.
Fantastic. All right. Main reason I want to get you on is to get your. Have you done any podcasts post Hall of Fame induction? I know you're on a bunch before. If you want to talk about it leading up to it, Mercer did a fantastic interview with you back at the beginning of September, just a couple weeks before you were inducted into the 2024 class of the Bass Fishing Hall of Fame, along with 4 other individuals. Have you done anything post? I've been in Japan. I just got back from Japan and that. Okay. That's why I want to get you on. Initial thoughts, end of September, family, friends, Bass Fishing Hall of Fame, the speech, the ceremony, the pomp, the circumstance. Initial thoughts now that that's kind of settled down in a week or 2 in the past, Mark.
Oh boy. Yeah, I've thought about it. It's weird because I guess there's some feelings of, it's a little bit bittersweet in a couple different ways. When I go out at 5 a.m. and walk a few miles and think about it, it's very, very humbling. From the viewers of Bassmaster and Zona show, and I don't want this to sound cliche, but man, that's somewhere I never thought I'd be standing in my life. And I'm sure there's a few others that probably think the same. That's what a Hall of Fame's for. A Hall of Fame's to be honored, but it's also always up for debate. And heck, man, there's a part of me where I'm like, man, I don't belong on the wall. I don't belong on the wall with the people that were in that photo right there, dude. But on the bittersweet side of it, it's strange. It's very hard to describe. But Ike and Ellie told me after his speech last year that you're going to have a lot of different emotions. And I guess a little bit of it, Matt, is it brings a little bit of a strange sense of closure. Skeet, it's weird you ask this because I haven't talked about this. Skeet texted me over the weekend and said, do you have a weird sense of a feeling of sadness? And it was strange that he texted me that because I had and it's probably a decompression, it's probably a decompression from a lot of emotions with parting ways with Bassmaster Live. I wouldn't say I'm parting ways with Bassmaster in any way. I'm just parting ways with commentating tournaments. So yeah, it's also a thank the fish gods that I did not mess that speech up horribly bad. It was kind of, and Panger, you were at that thing. It was especially going back to Skeet. His speech was exhausting.
So I believe the time. So we had someone at our table who went to the restroom, and I checked the clock, and then at the end, I think we were right around the 52-minute mark.
Yeah. Yeah, it was. Listen, I would have rather have gone before him because while he was up there, whenever you thank your financial advisor like he did, I was like, wow, you are hitting every
what were you
corner.
told? So like I'm on the board of directors, but I'm not sure like what this speech, I have no idea what the inductees are told, like, hey, like you get X amount of time to express your feelings and emotions.
It's a keep it short, and it's a keep it short as you can. Have a beginning and have an end. But listen, the time sitting there when Skeet was up there, it made me start thinking about mine more and more and more and more. I would have rather, like I said, I'd rather gone before him, but
you killed it. I'm a bass guy. I love the stuff. To me, it was like, you know what? You're one of 100 in the Bass Fishing Hall of Fame. If the reason that Skeet is in the Hall of Fame is because he said, screw it, I'm going to talk for as long as I want. So in a weird way, that speech was very symbolic of Skeet's career. No, and I say that in a complimentary way. If he had gone up and followed the rules and said, oh, I'll be out of here after the 10 minutes and make sure everything's right, he's not standing up there. That's Skeet. That's what makes him a Hall of Famer, is I'm going to be bold. I'm going to do this. The whole reason he's in it is because he told everybody, screw you, I'm going to do what I want, which is what happened at the Hall of Fame.
That's exactly. And what was funny, and there was such an amazing dynamic. I think when he got probably 40 minutes in, you started to see a lot of the actual Hall of Fame board members coming up, and they were actually clapping while he was still talking. And he was like, I'm not kidding.
Yeah, no, I did. That was not me, because I knew that he had not gotten to his family yet and had not gotten to several key figures. And I was like, my God, we have to go through Velvic. We have to go through Murray. We have to go through the family. We have to go. And I'm like, this is at least another 20. But hey, it was all good. But
it's all good.
Was it weird, like pulling it off, like seeing the actual plaque, like having the boys put the jacket on you, seeing how emotional and how much it meant to your circle friend and your family that was there?
Yeah, that is, that part of it is very hard to comprehend, because look, man, that's what's weird is and I've heard somebody say this before, but it's true. I live in the world of production, with Zona show and Bassmaster. And if you get voted into the honor of that, it's because of you, but it's really because of the people that are the foundations of production to be there, along with your family. No other way to put it. JM Associates and the group that I work with there, from McInnes to Tommy to Michael Middleton, also in connection with my wife Karen and my kids. I'll never bitch about this, but I've been gone. I think that's probably why I'm stepping back from some of my commitments that I had. Is how many more years you got on Earth? I'm gonna give a little time back. So anyway, yes, that's to have my father there. My mom's not with us anymore. But it's not only the time span of, for at least in my mind, it's not only the time span of working in production and call-in tournaments and Zona. I'm being very bouncing all over, but this is just it's a very, very, very long chapter. And one thing I come back to, and I never said this in my speech, is so many miles and so many hours to get to a point to even be considered to be on that wall. It's a long commitment. It's a long commitment.
I was sitting next to a table, and I'm going to get them all wrong. I want to say it was Hank Parker, Stacy King, Tommy Martin, Basil Bacon, and there was one other there. And I remember I just looked over and I was like,
That's a wow, man.
Oh yeah, I was like, dang, that's freaking wild
You just put
to
that
have all
picture
those
up.
guys. What?
You just put that
Yeah.
picture up with past inductees, and it's very hard to comprehend. It's very,
Yeah.
very hard to comprehend
Oh,
that. And to
that's Gerald Crawford right there.
Gerald Crawford, yeah.
Gerald Crawford was at that table. If you don't know who Gerald
Yes.
Crawford is, worth a Google.
Yes, he actually chased me down on Lake Ontario once trying to get photos in a tournament I caught a bass in. And for everything, like what's funny is a lot of the inductees that are up there, I covered them. I covered and worked side by side with them. So that's a cool. Gosh, man, I'm still a fan of this. And
Yeah.
to what's weird is to look out when you're up there talking. It's I couldn't focus in on a lot of those folks that are standing there just because it's intimidating as could be to be in the exact same conversation with them. It's humbling.
Okay, I love Jimmy Houston trying to sell a pair of shades, even in the Hall of Fame.
No
picture.
doubt, man. It's branding. It's branding 101.
And good to see Chris there as well.
Yes, very much so. It was it was a cool evening. And then we went down to Big Cedar Lodge and decompressed for the weekend with not, I wouldn't say my fishing friends, just our actual family friends that don't know they don't know a lot. My boys' girlfriends don't know a lot about bass fishing. And this is the best part. All they wanted to do when we went down to Big Cedar is, hey, can we just go pontooning? I'm like, this is how I want to end the weekend.
This is what you want. And then so here's the other thing that hit me on that. So, you saw Johnny Morris. Yeah. I mean, it's literally like he's just like moseying around his house. It just happens to be a couple $1 billion. And he's down there for the plaque unveiling ceremony. And then he comes up and he shares a couple of TikTok videos with the crowd and talks. And I'm watching him talk. And then I'm looking over at this table that's 5 feet from me and all these legends of the sport. And I'm like, dude, these guys were just like 20, 30 something year olds. I'm sure they had family that was saying, the hell are you doing in this fishing game? You're selling freaking lures out of the back of your truck. You're quitting your job to go become what? A professional And like Johnny knew these guys when they were all struggling and they were doing the things and living out of their trucks and barely making it. And then you look at it and you look at them now and you look at Johnny now and you're like, dude, this is like, yeah, it's like a business relationship now, but these guys knew each other back in the day. Like back when they were, and you can tell when they interact with Johnny's and he's talking with the guys and stuff, they're just dudes who have been buddies for 50 years. Do you think they sit around and go, holy crap, like this turned out pretty damn cool?
I think Johnny is too busy mentally still, lack of a better words, kicking ass. Because the dude does not stop. I've become very close. I would say very, very close with Johnny over the last 6 to 7 years. And it's amazing outside of that business. It's amazing that dude he's the tip of the spear when it comes to conservation. And Panger, I don't want to sound ignorant, but I will because I am. I've been in a lot of that room that we were in for the Hall of Fame. I've been in a lot of dinners in there. And when I started this 20 years ago, I did not know what the word conservation meant. I don't want to walk down that road, but it's probably the most important word in our country right now for the world that we live in, from hunting to fishing and protecting and keeping evildoers out of it. And Johnny taught me what that word. Look, man, I thought when I first started going to dinners in that room, conservation dinners, I just thought they were long dinners and good food. And I slowly learned what that word meant. And that's something that guy and that room and the people that were in there, a lot of them fight for what, outside of the world we work in is fighting for the rights of hunters and fishermen. I give Johnny a lot of credit because a lot of it goes on behind the scenes that he doesn't give credit for. So to answer your question, do I think that he sits back and goes, man, look what we did? No, no, because he is on to the next and the next, and that's why there's not many of him in the entire world on the planet.
Yeah, that do you think you'll just go back there to the Hall of Fame, which they did a lot of cool renovations to? Now every single person that goes through the Wonders of Wildlife has to walk through the Bass Fishing Hall of Fame portion. They're working on a storyboard. The committee, that committee has done a fantastic job of, and Johnny has done a fantastic job of giving space and accommodating to make that focal point of the Wonders of Wildlife. But do you think you'll ever go back when it's just you? No one knows you're there. Sneak down in there and look at the plaque and just kind of take a moment and look at the little section that you have in that with the 99 other people.
Yeah, man. I said this, and Panger, obviously, I'm not a very big awards dude. I'm not a big trophy dude. It's not my gig. It's not my jam. But yeah, that's one that I care about. That I care deeply about that. Well, I think the most eye-opening thing when I walked through there, I looked at all the plaques. I made the comment that my plaque looked like John Daly. I don't think I look like John Daly. Maybe more so than I thought.
Yeah, I don't know about the plaque remakes. I might be able to look into that. It was a tad off. It was not bad. It just
was not good.
It is.
It is.
I feel like it's hard to mold whatever metal that is to make it look actually like the person.
I'm going to agree with that just from an ego standpoint. But but walking through there, one of the things that was really cool that they made there, and I didn't know that this had been done, was a entire wall of a timeline of professional bass fishing and just bass fishing in general. And to have a photo up there of when Bassmaster Live began with Tommy, that was a cool feeling. That was a very eye-opening. It was very eye-opening to me that's etched at least a few people's mind as a pretty critical turning point in at least how actual tournament was covered. You and Jeffries and the Legend, you guys were the ones that started that. Which look, it was going to happen. Eventually, it was going to happen regardless. Yeah. But I remember the plan, which I was terrified of, just because the word live to this day really scares me. But it to have that little 50 years from now, 100 years from now, I got to be part of the actual, from the Bassmaster Live set, to be the first one to do it with Sanders.
I think that's a great way to touch on it. You do feel as though there will be professional bass fishing 50, 100 years from now.
Oh, yes,
we're not,
man.
I mean, we're not going to implode in the next 12 to 18 months and everyone's going to be crappie fishing and up in New York dough baiting for carp, European style off the bank. Okay, that's it. I just wanted to make sure. Wanted to make sure, because it just depends on.
It's a little bumpy right now. It's been a little bit bumpy, but it'll evolve. It'll exist. You want to see it advance. That's been a little bit just kind of like that for a very long time, and you want to see it. You want to see it go there. Mercer asked me a question. He said, were the mid 2000s the heyday, and are we never going to see that again? And I said, hell no, dude, you can't say that. That's number one. That's a very shallow-minded way of thinking. If nothing's going to get better in the next decade, 2 decades to 50 years, why do it? So I'd like to still work in it some way, shape, or form. What way, shape, or form that is at this current. I'm gonna take a little time out for a while, but Panger, I'm like you, dude. I care about it at times to a fault, to where it actually affects my brain and my family. But things are going to be okay. Things are going to be okay.
I recently heard us a little bit stressed out on the water, and we're both big AFCO guys.
Yep.
And I don't know if I'm supposed to be. I'm screwed. I'm telling it because it was a great story. And you took. I heard Bill Shed from AFCO absolutely blasted the smallmouth in the most unimaginable way, and that there was a little bit of stress involved with that trip.
It was a lot of stress, dude. It was a lot.
Like he's like the head guy. He's like in. He's like Milt Shed is in the IGFA Hall of Fame and all that. That Bill's in Hall of. I mean, massive. You want to talk about conservation? The Shed family, insanely big in conservation. A lot of saltwater, a lot of freshwater too. That's where their 10% pledge comes from, with Casey taking over the freshwater team 5-6 years ago. So you can do your research on that. I've talked about it on the show, the yellow bank bags, the whole 9 yards there. But I heard like he had never caught a smallmouth, and then you guys went out and it was like impossible to catch one, and Bill just was like blasting him in the middle of the boat.
Loving it. And here's what was. So let me set this story up real quick. Let me set this up. So Mike Valster, who works with so many,
just went to Japan with him.
Just went to Japan. Mike's one of the best dudes in the industry, straight shooter, and knows every corner of the history of fishing. So Mike calls me, and this is back 3 months ago, and he's like, "Hey, Bill's got a couple days to go smallmouth fishing." Now, mind you, Panger, I offered come up the third week of May, which is the apex. It's the best.
You're gonna catch.
You're gonna catch 150 a day. And when Valster said the dates, I think it was like September 19th and 20th. Ballpark. It was those 2 days. And I went. And this is back 3 months ago. I went. Yeah, that's not. Those aren't the 2 days I wouldn't pick those. I wouldn't do that. I would pick 2 weeks. Well, he's like, no, those are the ones that we have open. So, all right, cool. So fast forward the week before I go up and I tape 3 Zona shows in 3 days, right? On them. I'm on them, Panger, and I'm on them in 2 areas, one on Lake Huron, one on an inland lake. Yep, there you go. That was his first. So I asked him, I said, Bill, what's the biggest smallmouth you ever caught in your life? He said about 2.25, 2.5 pounder. I said, all right, we're going to beat that. So we go out on Lake Huron, and Bill caught that 4 pounder. And I got about, this is no joke, I got about 12 pieces of wood that I rotate, petrified wood, that the week before, big ones crawling on every one of them. I make a rotation. There is 0 crawling on any of them. Okay. All right. So
all
we
12.
scrap that. Exactly. All 12, nothing.
And
nothing.
You probably knew after about 4 that the next 8, not a high likelihood.
Well, I knew we had a problem there. But with the way that the winds were coming, I got on a shallow deal that were big ones. Big. I mean, really good ones. And Bill wanted to catch a 5 pounder. So we go to my little inland lake the next day, and I had a 2-mile stretch, Panger, that they were up shallow, 1 to 3 feet of water, cockroaching around. 5 days prior, it was aimless how many we caught taping, and we made a pass down it, and Bill catches a 4 pounder. Oof. And we get to the end of the pass. When you get to the end of your waypoints, I was like, oh no. And I started going, that's what I do when they're, So the problem is we're not near any of my other juice lakes. So we're all right. Let's figure it out. So go to a deal. Bill sets the hook. Conk. Catches a 5 pounder, and he's fishing. I'm in the front, Valster's in the back, and Valster is a stick. In 5 minutes, Valster can catch him. We go to another gig. Bill throws out 4.5 pounder, and what was funny, Panger, he's letting them jump and enjoying the fight and enjoying the experience. And Valster's got the net, and Valster's 7'4", arm length
6'6",
of a condor.
Yeah,
and
he's got some reach.
listen, he has got the net out. He's got the net out, trying to get Bill's letting the fish jump, and Valster's trying to net it. I'm going to say at about 15 foot outside of the boat, and I'm not kidding. Valster gets his biggest one, and it was there. It was great memory. And I collapsed on the front of the boat. I was shaking so bad.
That's what he said.
I knew what it meant. I knew what it meant to me and Valster mentally, but I knew what it meant, the experience to Bill. Bill Shedd is a legend of fishing. And when it all came together, well, here's what's weird. It was so easy the week before. It was so easy. It was so tough when Mike and Bill were up there. It was almost a little bit sweeter but because by the end of it, we had a big bag. We had, 24 pounds for 5. And it was a great experience. We have, now here's what I will say, Panger. When Bill Shedd, who's in the middle right there, when he comes
getting
back,
inducted into the IGFA, by the way.
Yes, which is not easy. It is not easy. When Bill comes back up north with Valster, I'm gonna make sure it's the 3rd week of May. Lot less stress for that. So
yeah,
it was an honor. It was an honor.
Next time you're up there with him, ask him to do a magic trick. I once watched him do a 45-minute magic trick show.
That does not surprise me.
He is amazing still. He could go on on tour with it.
Yes, he's a great dude, great family. And again, what's funny is there are certain, I always say this, there's certain fish catches from when I was a little dude. Heck, I talked about a fish catch when I was, a 10-year-old.
Yep.
There were 2 or 3 fish catches on that trip with those 2 dudes, no cameras, no nothing. That is the reason you bass fish. Like when it was done and I was driving home alone, I was like, man, I will not forget some of those moments. And the smallmouth bit for the right person. And look, Valster's caught big smallmouth, and I've been lucky enough to do that for 45 years of my life. But for Bill from Southern California, he's wired, he's excitable. Dude, when he would land some of those and just start screaming at the top of his lungs, I was like, oh, this is so what bass fishing is about. This is so what I want to do more of the next few years.
Mike said that like the clouds parted and like a ray of sun shone in the middle of the boat, and you weren't catching them, and Valster wasn't catching them, and he had this freaking tube out there, and Valster's like, had not done it before. And it was just like one of those days where the guy who was supposed to catch, the magic happened, and then it kept happening, and you guys were just looking at each other while he's fighting these things going, could you believe this is happening? And he's just giggling, reeling them in, cast it out, hooking another one, and you guys caught 2, and he caught 8.
Yeah, and what was funny about that was I remember turning around and looking at Valster and just going, wow, right? And the other when Bill got in the boat, I looked at him and I said, throw just a little 2.75 inch coffee tube. I said, Bill, don't put it down. Don't put it down. By the end of this trip, in some way, shape, or form, I'm gonna get you near a big one. I'm gonna get you near a boulder monkey. And what was funny was they were, this time of year, like right now, I'm heading up north right when we're done, is when you hook them with the temps dropping, they're the strongest right now that they are the entire year, right? The strongest they will be. And the first thing that they would do is when Bill would hook them, they would breach and jump, that high out of the water. And everyone he hooked was big. And when they jump out, he's like, look at him out there jumping. I'm like, Bill, don't let him do that. Don't.
Right? I've come to the conclusion in my ripe old age that there's nothing better. There's nothing that's more pressure than trying to get someone to catch a fish that is in the boat with you that like you're like this person has to catch a fish, and then there's not a better feeling when you start to see the pieces and then it freaking happens, and they don't realize that it's like a 10% chance that it's going to happen, and then it happens. Like that is the closest thing to like pure joy that I think I've experienced over the last 5 years.
Hanger, no BS. When Bill caught that real big one, and Valster's watching this. Valster grabbed the net. I said, "You got to do this." I'm very, very tweaked out right now, so he's fighting him. There was a time during the fight I actually turned away and looked across the lake because I could not. I was so terrified I was going to see that, because the thing was he was fighting him, and I could see the entire tube, and I'm like, I know how this ends. I know how this ends. That tube flies out, and it was so cool when he landed it.
He's not going to like that we said his name this much in the podcast. He likes to work in the shadows.
He does. But he deserved that one because he was an MVP with the net on him.
It is. One last thing, and then I'm gonna let you go. I'm assuming you're filming.
I am. I'm filming tomorrow. Gonna go look at some stuff later today, and then a quick turnaround. I got to get to a sales meeting Saturday.
Okay.
I'm gonna tape down in Tennessee. Yeah.
I figured it was either that or a week-long pub crawl with KVD. But
yeah, we're not allowed to do that anymore. No, we do living room crawls.
Okay. Last thing, let's throw a little fishing stuff in here. So, I mean, I try to. There's a lot of stuff going on in the second half of the show. We're going to talk Bassmaster Open move to Lake Martin. We're talking U.S. Open on Lake Mojave, NPFL on Lake of the Ozarks. We have 9 new Elite Series angler. We have all sorts of stuff going on, and then I'm going to touch on the Japan trip. But I did notice right before you went live, you walked out on your dock, and there were some fresh beds. Did I see that? Did I see that properly?
Yeah, that's a real Panger. Why do you think I'm heading up north right now? That has happened. Back when I used to fish a lot of tournaments this time of year, back in 30 years ago, that's what's weird is that's what I wanted. I wanted Mike and Bill Shedd to see that because they were doing that the week before up north. But the moon needs to hit a cold front that kicks those water temps out of the mid 70s. And what's funny, so what happens is, smallmouth and largemouth, more so smallmouth, but I see like those were largemouth that did that right there out front of the house. The males come up and get very confused and will make beds. They won't stick to them like they do in April and May, but they'll become very territorial and stay around them, waiting, thinking it's this is the same ritual in the spring, and they'll generally stay for about 24 hours. And very, very susceptible to being caught. I won many tourneys with buddies that all we would do on the full moon of September and October is sight fish, and it's a phenomenon that happens to this day. We shot an entire show 3 weeks ago where you could see the freshly panned bed, and boom, a 4.5 pounder sitting off to the side of it, waiting for the ladies to come to the bar. They just never come. And when those big males figure out they're not coming, boof, they're gone within 48 hours.
That's some juice right there, Z.
It's factual.
One last thing.
Yeah.
One last thing, I'll let you go. So you are retired from Bass Live, not retired from the industry. KVD is retired. You used to fish tournaments. Can we get one team tournament with you and Kevin in it? Like what is it? Not the Sag. What's the one up there in the Great Lakes that the Johnson brother?
The Sturgeon Bay Open.
Sturgeon Bay Open. Can we get one of those? Can we get one of those? I'm dead serious. You guys have to commit one a year. You and KVD, Sturgeon Bay Open, Canadian Open, some team tournament on Thousand Islands, somewhere, something. You guys have to.
We were signed up to fish one in early September together on St. Clair. We were signed up to do it all the way back since May, and schedules, as we got closer to it, schedules wouldn't allow. But I would say that's on the. I would say that it probably had. Now listen, him and I we do not fish very. We try, but we have very, very drastically different fishing. Very drastically. He's really good. I fish differently than and it's usually when we're in the boat together, Panger. It's a train wreck. It's a true disaster. But it somehow by the end of the day,
it has to happen. Yeah, I mean, the people want it. We want it. It's the perfect timing.
I will bring it up to him, and it will happen. I sincerely believe that it will definitely happen. Yeah.
I mean, Strike King has the greatest filming documentary team on the face of the earth right now, with everything that they have going. Like that would break the internet. Back when we used to have the Flemish Cup on Ray Scott's Lake back in the day, we fished against against Shaw and Roland in a team tournament, and managed to do well in that. And then we got busted up pretty bad from skeet and swindle. So yeah, I'm up for it, man. I still got a little competitive fire. I'm good to go. All right. Well, I'm going to let you go. I greatly appreciate it. I know you're headed up north. I hit you up with this yesterday. I got back. Have you had jet lag before? Like severe, jet lag?
Yes.
It is.
Yes.
It is the weirdest thing ever.
Like seasickness almost, but on land. Yes.
It's like the verge of it's the I'm getting sick feeling, but you're not.
Right.
A little bit disconnected from the body. So I literally took off yesterday because I knew I would have that and it wouldn't be a good show. And you were like, yeah, dude, I'm on today, so I appreciate it, man.
You're killing it today, Panger. I love you, and as always, BTL's been a big, long part of my life and journey. You guys are the best. Thank you.
Thanks. Safe travels, Z.
See you, brother.
All right, the one and only Mark Zona. We're going to take a break. When we come back, like I said, lots of stuff to unpack, digest, and talk about on a Tuesday live from the studio in Shawnee, Oklahoma. It is October 8th. BTL will be back right after this.
The new Puma STS has been redesigned from the ground up. With the angler, design, function, and performance in mind, nothing on this new offering was compromised, and the only thing carried over from the previous version is the name. Based on the Soft Touch series hull that started with the flagship Jaguar, this new model is nimble and performs incredibly well at all speeds with either a 250 or 300 horsepower engine. Featuring a new 96-inch wide-body footprint, this hull measures out at 20 foot 7 inches in length. Industry-leading design coupled with tournament-winning performance. The Puma STS from Bass Cat. Feel the rush.
This is Gamakatsu's new Nano Alpha line of hooks. If it looks familiar, that's because they are. It's the same shapes and sizes in the round bend and the EWG and in the new Horizon head that you know and love from Gamakatsu, but there are a couple new features with this Nano Alpha, which is this little green label that you see on the packaging. First off, 2 times faster hook penetration. That's because of the Nano Alpha smooth coating on it, and also it is 4 times more corrosion resistant. Check it out, Nano Alpha.
I've been using Sunline Shooter for the majority of my career. Millions of dollars made, lots of bass caught, and the gnarly, gnarly stuff. If you need a abrasion resistant, tough fishing line for the really, really mean stuff, Sunline Shooter is for you.
Beatdown is efficient, rock solid.
100% American made.
This thing is super tough. I mean, this thing is not going anywhere.
I've ran the Beatdown double stack from Florida all the way up to New York. And the one thing that I know is when I get to my fishing destination, I never have to worry about issues with my graph mount.
Your options are endless with these mounts, but they're steady, they're solid. These are the most reliable mounts on the market, and you can't go wrong with the Beatdown.
Everything you need, gear that just plain works. Cast after cast after cast. AFCO. Any fish, any water.
Your early morning mentality is your every hour mentality. All gas, no brakes. Focus, purpose, power. Destined for the water, but confident everywhere else. A calming buzz before the storm, the truth of nature itself. You can't catch lightning in a bottle. There's a limit out there, but it's not with your gear. Unrelenting power delivery. Unparalleled weight savings. Keeping you on the water, whether you run a 9-9 or out scoping your best 5. In this rare air, there's power in the silence. It's a mindset, thinking only of the things that matter and freeing your mind from the things that you trust.
Get the best patterns backed by tournament data. Start by finding the best 10% of your lake. Know exactly what to look for and what to throw. After that, just put them in the boat. Try the Deep Dive app today.
Look at that beast right there.
All right, welcome back, BTL, on a Tuesday, back from Bass Fishing Hall of Fame banquet ceremony. One of the guys that I was really, and I haven't had a show since then because, you know, we did the Hall of Fame. It was like a Thursday. Got home on a Friday, left Monday morning for Japan to head down to Sunline. And one of the cool things that I thought on the Hall of Fame was the chance that I had to meet Alfred Williams. I'd heard a lot about him. Obviously listened to some shows that he had been on, but that was my first time that I'd gotten to talk with him in person. Had a lot of family members there as well. And just a super cool dude. BassFishingHOF.com. You can read about all those guys. And if you guys haven't had a chance, definitely worth a weekend to go to Johnny's house, Bass Pro Shops in Springfield, Missouri. The Wonders of Wildlife Museum is absolutely insane. We're going to do a full breakdown of the Japan trip. I think I've got Valser to agree to actually appear on a podcast. Maybe not, but definitely with Kyle Welcher and John Cruz. And I'll say this before, like obviously one of the most talented anglers on the water in the world, Kyle Welcher. You look at his body of work, obviously the Angler of the Year, the consistency coming up in Alabama. His style of fishing resonates with a lot of weekend anglers. Cover water, grind it out, catch a fish on a frog here, go skip a dock there, throw a wacky rig over there, then power crank one. The dude has an insane arsenal. And I'd known him, I wouldn't say like really well. Like we kind of connected over some of the poker stuff. He's always been a really good guest on BTL, probably one of the most requested guests that I've had on BTL. Well, dating back to Jeffries when Jeffries was kind of running the show. Very interesting, you know, spent a lot of his years. I think he had an apartment and lived in Vegas for a number of years and played cash games and tournament poker to make his living before he started as he was doing the YouTube thing with fishing coming up. So that being said, it was really cool, like kind of getting to know him over the 6 days that we were in Japan. There were just 4 of us. That dude is like dialed in, incredibly smart, but like when he's not in his tournament mode, analytical, the thought process behind it, the confidence that he has in his ability to like locate and find fish. Like we're all there. There's all this tackle and all this stuff over there. And, you know, BTL exists because the sponsors on the show. And if you look at the setup of how this fishing works, I just say it like you want that. What a tackle company wants is, hey, you buy this, you catch big ones. You buy a 6XD, you catch them cranking like KVD does. You buy this worm, you catch them like Shaw Grigsby does. You buy this topwater, you catch them like Jason Christie does. And to a certain extent, there are certain baits that obviously work better than others. But when it comes down to it, your ability to find, to locate, to make decisions on the water, to be dialed into the conditions that are going on that day, to have that confidence, that's what makes an elite level angler. You can't catch what isn't there. But to just some of the little trains of thought that Kyle went on, you know, when he's talking about, I don't think he'll mind me saying this, and I'll ask him about it when we get him on the show next week, is he said, and we kind of made a joke about it, he was looking for baits that would fill gaps, that would fill a hole. He said, I'm not looking for a magic bullet over here. He goes, I'm looking for something that I've had an instance where I'm like, man, I wish I had XYZ. And, you know, maybe the tackle store in Japan has XYZ. He said, that's what I'm going to buy. And it was cool watching him go through all the different aisles. I mean, I kind of had one thing in mind, and honestly, I think I got a little leg up on the competition right now, so I'm not going to share the entire haul of everything that we got for, you know, all of our, there's a bunch of guys that are over there right now. I know Alton, I think Alton Jr.'s over there right now. I know there's a group that's over in China. I know some of those guys, Matt Becker, those guys are going to go spend a day in Japan. Brett Chapman's boys over there right now. I think he's doing a semester abroad, so it's not like we're the first people to ever go to a Japan tackle store. But, you know, he was looking for specific stuff. And we all know John Cruz, his business savvy in the industry. But it was cool to watch them kind of go through the tackle and pick out stuff that either they'd heard about or that they thought was interesting or that could fill gaps. I'll share a couple of the things. Yes, I did actually find the dice rubber. There they are right there. These things were still like $12, $13 in Japan for 4 of them. I was shocked. It's not like, hey, here's the dice rubber and that's it. There's like 30 or 40 different styles of plastic things with some sort of rubber appendage, something sticking out of it. It blows my mind. Like they have entire rows like we have of just like there'd be just like a missile D-bombs, you know, just like do. And then next to it would be like the brush hogs, or next to it would be like the zoom stuff, like entire rows. They have that of like these weird rubber baits. So I got some to check that out. And then they also have like a bunch of like novelty baits and stuff. These are like $12. You like wacky rig that thing. This is 3.5 inches. This is 261 actual life-size scale. So what I thought was interesting, and that I talked to a couple of the people over there, was they said, man, you know, Japanese anglers, when they buy a lure in the tackle store, and it's not like where you see like there'd be like 10 red shad worms on a peg. A lot of times the pegs are like mixed, so there'd be like 6 bags of X style of bait, but there'd be like 4 different colors on it. So there were a lot of like one-offs. Like I got some jerk baits that were like Japanese colors, but it's like you kind of have to dig through that peg of that color. We went to 3 stores. One of the bigger stores had them separated by color, but the majority of it is you just kind of have to dig through, and when you see it, you get it. And it's typically kind of a one-off. But it was cool. It was very cool. But like I was saying, so the Japanese anglers, and you could see these bass guys that were going in, they analyze every bait. They look at it very closely. You know, they purchase it. And he said, you Americans come in. He goes, you just take the whole damn row. He said, you just put everything in. I said, yeah, because we don't know if we're ever going to be able to get it again. He's like, Japanese, he's like, very, you know, American, just take it. We'll figure it out later. But I would say the 2 key takeaways that I got from that are finesse hard baits, minnow style baits, not necessarily with a lip. That is big over there. The 3 to 4.5 inch, the light baits, the suspending, the slow sink, jerk bait, twitch bait, slash bait type stuff, ultra realistic, a lot of marabou flash in it. And then these these dice rubber, these really abstract creature baits that are being fished on free rigs, Nico rigs, light drop shots, that type of stuff were the two main ones that really stuck out to me. And then also the other thing that really stuck out was the attention to detail in the terminal tackle. Their rows of terminal tackle were mind-blowing. All sorts of little plastic and metal and tungsten and lead and little things that you have to like really sit there and figure out, like, what is this? And then a lot of stuff that we make ourselves in the United States, they like have completely dialed in. So for like line through swim baits and hook protection and putting trailer hooks on bigger hooks, like all sorts of little stuff that, and tackle hacks that these guys have just meticulously thought that I've never even seen before. I spent so much time in the terminal tackle aisle just buying little things that I was like, oh, that'll help keep your bait from sliding down. Now I don't have to use a coffee straw for a line through. That'll protect a knot. That'll help my trailer hook stay straight. So those were some of the big takeaways that I got. I was a little bit surprised. There were some things, like I would say, obviously the minnow game was strong over there, but when it came to like the minnow jig heads, obviously the number one hook from what I saw, I thought they would just be like jig heads galore over there. And it is, but it's all tiny stuff. It's like small stuff, 1/0 hooks, 2/32, 164, 3 128, like that type of stuff was small. None of this like kind of Bubba bigger stuff that we're seeing that's making a trend in the United States, but I'm still trying to dial it down. I know that there's a fishing tackle show next week that Cruz is going to be at. Welcher's actually been out on the water, like testing all this stuff. It was amazing. He got back. He said, screw the jet lag, I'm going to the lake. And I already sent some pictures of the stuff that he's caught fish on. But tournament wise, this actually worked out crazy good. So originally what the plan, and I did not want to miss the Bassmaster Open on Lake Hartwell. I fished a couple tournaments on Lake Hartwell and they've gone well. I've top 10 pretty much everything I fished out there. And the original plan was to drive my rig to Atlanta, then fly from Atlanta over to Japan, get back on Monday morning and drive from Atlanta up to Hartwell. And with the Hurricane Helene, that would have been a nightmare. And also crazy what's going on now in Florida with Hurricane Milton. Thoughts and prayers. Lots of anglers and people that are in the path of that's hitting the next couple of days. But then they moved that Bassmaster Open to Lake Martin. So the fact that I did not fish the last Bassmaster Open actually worked out, because I don't know if I'd have even been able to get through Atlanta to come back through to get my boat to Lake Martin, a lake I had never been to before. But that thing kicks off on Thursday. It was interesting. They did not, once they made that move from Lake Hartwell, which was flooded out, to Lake Martin, they did not let anyone else in. So you're getting a Bassmaster Open. Basically, there's some locals from Alabama who obviously know Lake Martin, but basically no info, because it was announced before the info, and no pre-practice. So they just get the 4.5 days of practice. So this is as close to a blind Bassmaster Open as you're going to get. And it is the most important Bassmaster Open EQ of the season, because they're battling for 9 spots. Top 9 currently: Easton Fothergill, Cody Meyer, Tucker Smith, Emil Wagner, Andrew Loberg, Paul Marks, Dakota Eber, Evan Kung, and then Matt Adams and Bo Browning are tied in 9th and 10th. Then you have to drop down. They have 1285 in points. And you have to drop down to Bobby Bakewell, who has 1217, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, basically a 70-point gap between 10th and 11th. Then you have Paquette, York, and Ish, and Washam. I would basically say out of the 15, there's an outside chance Jimmy Washam has, but really those top 10 are battling it. I think you have a chance for Ish, Jimmy, Jack, Garrett, or Bobby. One of those guys can slide in, but the top 4 or 5, unless catastrophe happens, are locked with Fothergill, he's gonna hurt some feelings on the Elite Series next year. The dude is a generational talent. Cody Meyer, we know what he can do. $1 Million Man Tucker Smith, he's kind of along that line of Fothergill, protege of Aaron Martin's, and a storied collegiate career that could probably only be rivaled by Jordan Lee. Emil Wagner, savant from the East Coast, spotted bass expert. He's probably I don't think he was disappointed. I know he was disappointed because I talked to him about that tournament being moved to from Lake Hartwell to Lake Martin. But his body of work, this dude is like a lock for the Bassmaster Elite Series, all but a lock for the Bassmaster Elite Series. And he basically zeroed a tournament. He finished 189th at Santee Cooper and got 11 Angler of the Year points. His other finishes this year off the charts: 12th, 24th, 4th, 12th, 18th, 7th, and 11th. And then that 189th mixed in. Andrew Loberg, we've had him on from day one, West Coast angler. I believe he moved to Alabama. Very talented angler, has always had success. Same with Paul Marks. Then you have Dakota Eber. Eber would have been 100% a lock. He's currently at 1296. So yeah, he's got to catch him here. But he had that one fish on day 2 at Leech Lake that dropped him from the top 10 all the way down to, I think, the 90s or 100s. Yeah, 94th. But uber consistent, exactly what we expected coming into the year. He's had 2 or 3 days this year where he's gone out and had a really tough day 1 and then bounced back with an incredible day 2. It started in Florida, had like 9 or 10 pounds on the first day. He came back with like over 20 on the second day to kick things off. His finishes 31st, 13th, 4th, 42nd, 46th, 38th, 94th, and 44th. So he is cash. He missed one by literally one spot, but he's basically cashed in all of them as well. And then the battle for that Elite Series comes down to Eber, Evan Kung, Matt Adams, and Stephen Browning's kid, Bo Browning, who we had on BTL earlier this year. So Thursday, Friday, Saturday, 3 days, Lake Martin. If you guys are looking at it, there's live coverage on that on Saturday. And then also Lake Mojave, all those guys are out there. I think practice right now is going on for the One Bass US Open on Lake Mojave. That kicks off the week of October 13th, 14th, 15th, 16th, that time. And then the NPFL on Lake of the Ozarks is like immediately after that on the 20th. So even though it may not be, I think there's some team series stuff mixed in there too. Yeah, I think there's some team series stuff there over on Major League Fishing. So even though the main seasons may be over, but you also have coming up in a couple weeks, the Toyota Series Championship on Wheeler Lake. So once the Wheeler Lake is over, one of the things that I'm really looking forward to is the ability to do the all BZ team. We did it a couple years ago with Hallman. That is not going to happen this year. Although I was in a text thread that Hallman responded to, but it was about OU Texas. Dude's doing good. Yeah, it was a thing about OU Texas, and he said, "Gotta love hate week" for Boomer Suitor on that. So, working on shows for the rest of the week. Maybe do a little bit of West Coast stuff sprinkled in there. I did get a message. There was something, some team series or something pro-am that went on Clear Lake. It took almost 100 pounds for 3 days. I need to look into that. But big shout out to the one and only Mark Zona for jumping on BTL today. And I think that's all we got. We'll talk to everybody tomorrow. Same time, same place, 8:30 a.m. Central Time. We are back. Better than ever as BTL. We'll talk to everyone later. See ya.